Am I the butthole for kicking out my cheating husband? Crazy update. Hi Reddit. I 32F am at a complete loss and don't know what to do next. My husband, Scott 35M, and I have been together for 10 years, married for 6, for a long time. I thought we had a strong marriage. We had our ups and downs, but I never thought it would come to this. I'm posting here because I need an outside perspective. Did I overreact, or was I justified in kicking him out? Scott and I met through mutual friends, and he was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. He was charming, supportive, and for the most part, we had a pretty good relationship. We've had some typical marital disagreements, mostly about money, responsibilities around the house, and more recently, trying for a baby. I've been ready to start a family, but Scott has always been hesitant. He kept putting it off, saying, "We're not financially ready," or maybe. Lately, Scott has been distant, working late, canceling plans, and spending more time on his phone than with me. I asked him about it several times, and he'd always brush it off, saying he was stressed at work. I wanted to believe him, but something didn't feel right. Last weekend, I decided to plan a romantic evening to try to reconnect. I made his favorite meal, lit candles, and waited for him to come home. When he finally walked in, hours later than he said he would, he looked surprised, not happy. He barely touched his food and kept glancing at his phone. That's when I knew something was definitely wrong. Later that night, after Scott fell asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something going on. I know it's a violation of privacy, but I felt like I was going crazy with suspicion. So I went through his phone, and there it was, countless messages between him and Emily, a woman I had never heard of. They were graphic, to say the least. I felt sick to my stomach reading the things they were saying to each other, things he hadn't said to me in years. They had been meeting up for months, and judging by the messages, it wasn't just emotional. I confronted him immediately, waking him up in a rage. He tried to deny it at first, but when I showed him the messages, he couldn't lie anymore. His face turned white, and he finally admitted that he had been cheating on me for nearly a year. He begged me not to do anything drastic, saying it was a mistake, that he loved me, and that it didn't mean anything, but it meant something to me. I was devastated and furious. I told Scott to pack his things and leave that night. He kept begging, saying he had nowhere to go and that we could work through this, but I couldn't even look at him. I told him to stay at a hotel, with a friend, anywhere but here. He eventually left, and I spent the night crying my eyes out. The next few days were a blur. Scott bombarded me with texts and calls, apologizing and promising he'd change, but I didn't respond. I told a few close friends, who all supported my decision to kick him out. However, my mother 55F had a different take. She thinks I overreacted and that all men cheat at some point. According to her, I should have given Scott a chance to explain himself. She even suggested that I might be at fault for pushing him away by focusing so much on wanting a baby. That stung a lot. Crazy update. After a week of silence, Scott came over unannounced, begging to talk. He told me he had broken things off with Emily and that he realized how much he had to lose. I wasn't interested in hearing his excuses, but then he dropped a bombshell. Apparently, Emily is pregnant. I was completely blindsided. Scott said he wasn't sure if it was his, but they had been sleeping together regularly, so there was a good chance it was. He said that if it turned out to be his baby, he'd do the right thing and be there for the child, but he still wanted to work things out with me. He swore it was a one-time mistake, and that he would never see Emily again if I took him back. But how could I take him back after this? I've been talking to a lawyer about divorce, but now with a potential child in the mix, everything feels so much more complicated. Part of me feels like I should just cut ties now and move on with my life, but another part of me wonders if I should at least wait to find out if the baby is his. What if he really can change? What if we could rebuild our marriage after this? I'm heartbroken and confused. Scott's betrayal has shattered my trust in him, but the thought of going through a divorce, especially if there's a child involved, is terrifying. I'm struggling with whether I should give him another chance or if I should follow through with the divorce and start over. So, Reddit AITA for kicking out my cheating husband? Should I wait to see if this baby is his before making any final decisions, or am I right to be done with him regardless?